Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content I'm putting up, make sure you subscribe so you always know when a new video pops up. Now that we got that part out of the way, let's get into the video. Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game with thousands of hours of content. What I'm going to do here is break down some of the major plot points for those of you who want to know more about Eorzea, but may not have time to experience it all firsthand. This time, we're covering the second part of the Sorrow of Werlyt storyline and the battle with the Sapphire Weapon. After taking down the Ruby Weapon, Gaius and valdelin headed off to see if they could find where the weapon had been sent from, while Cid and Several worked on learning all they could about the Empire's new toy. What he discovered proved his earlier thoughts right. The Garleans had managed to force someone else's experiences and memories into the Ruby Weapon's pilot by creating something called synthetic Eorzea. The Ascians had called the core of the original Ultima weapon the Heart of Sabbac, which Cid believes was a large piece of Eorzea. Eorzea has the power to store memories, ether, or even really strong desires and pour them into people, giving them incredible power, and sometimes changing their form into massive beasts. Cid doesn't know whether the Garleans' creation has all the properties of actual Eorzea, but we all know Cid. If it has anything to do with technology, he can figure out how it works. Something else he discovered was exactly how the Empire got their hands on the combat data of Nell Vandarnis. High-ranking Imperial officers have devices put on their armor that are designed to emulate the soul crystals that people use throughout Eorzea, to help them learn to use the techniques of other warriors. However, most of the Empire were never told what the devices actually did, probably so they wouldn't be accused of copying their savage enemies. Can't have the propaganda saying everything in Eorzea is bad if you're doing the same thing. It might make people start thinking and asking questions instead of mindlessly fighting people who have never actually done anything to them. In any case, the devices record the combat data of the wielders, but it's unclear how that data is actually transferred. It could be by ether, but the fact that more than just Nell's memories were transferred into Melisandre makes Cid think it has something to do with how the pilot was fused to the Ruby Weapon's core. What he does know is that the Ruby Weapon itself wasn't all that damaged in the fight, so the pilot likely died because the system hadn't worked the way it was supposed to, not from the actual fighting. While you talk, Gaius makes it back to the camp, so you take a break from all the sciencey stuff to see what he's found out. valdelin had managed to trace the Ruby Weapon's path back to a place called Werlyt, where the weapon had apparently been built. Werlyt lies to the east of Gimlet, opposite of Alamigo, and it's another place that the Empire conquered years ago. It's also where Alphonse and the rest of Gaius' children were born. The Empire has built an airship supply depot in the town of Turncliff, and based off of the reports of some locals, one of the weapons was brought there a few days ago. This brings up a few problems. Because of Turncliff's location, the weapon will be fully operational before you actually get there. Going by sea would let you avoid some of the ground troops, but it still wouldn't get you there fast enough. However, Cid thinks it's a perfect time to test out his newest toy. Well, he's gonna bring it, and you'll be doing the testing. He runs off to get it, and everyone is shocked to see that Cid has built a Gundam. Well, he didn't build it from scratch. He had retrieved the Allegan relic from Aziz La, modified it a little bit with some Garland tech, and boom, now you have the G-Warrior. And he wants you to take it and use it to fight the weapon at Turncliff, after you give it a bit of a test drive, of course. After a little bit of practice, you load into the suit that is then carried out to Turncliff, where the Sapphire Weapon rises out of the water like a kaiju from Pacific Rim. With Gaius in your ear guiding you through the fight, you take down the wildly powerful weapon. And I hope they let us pilot that thing again. But of course, us having a machine that can fight primal-powered weapons one-on-one can't last. And it'll probably get blown up when we see the next weapon. With the Sapphire Weapon out of commission, you meet up with Gaius and the others in Turncliff to watch Cid get to work on studying the Empire's fallen toy. While you watch them work, the Echo shows you a vision of Rex as he gets ready to board the Sapphire Weapon just a short while before your attack. He plans on using it to hold you all off while the others move the remaining weapons to a safe location, but Recon shows up and decides to take Rex's place. Rex is a far better pilot, and Recon doesn't want him to throw his life away when the others need him. After Rex spent his whole life protecting Recon, it's only fitting that Recon die in his brother's place. And if he uses the Oversoul mode of the weapon like Melisandre had, then he should be able to hold off the Eorzeans. The data collected from Melisandre's fight in the Ruby Weapon helped improve the Oversoul system, so he may actually survive the process. But whether he survives the oversoul process or not doesn't really matter. His body will still fuse with the core of the weapon. Once the oversoul is activated, there's no coming back. Rex still doesn't want to let his brother do it, but there isn't much time to argue, so he reluctantly gives in and runs off to secure the other weapons, while Recon prepares to battle you in the Sapphire Weapon. Back in the present, you let Gaius know what you saw just as Sid arrives to tell him that the pilot didn't survive. Gaius gets angry, vowing to bring an end to the project before any more of his children die. He leaves, and you go to follow him, but valdelin stops you, asking you if you believe that Gaius has truly abandoned the Empire, or is he just planning something big before he goes back to them? He suffered a lot at the hands of the Garleans and finds it hard to trust them, which makes it seem strange that he's traveling with Gaius of all people. 20 years ago, not long after the fall of Alamigo, the Garleans marched into the land of the Dusk-White Ellison. They fought back, but their weapons and magic barely slowed the Garleans. Valdelin was knocked unconscious during the fighting, and when he woke, everyone else was dead. He went home to find his wife and child, but they were gone. He searched for them for months, until he discovered that everyone from his village had been taken and used as test subjects for Black Rose, the Empire's poison gas. None of them survived. He eventually joined the Twin Adders, even though the Gridanians never treated the Dustwhites like anything other than outcasts, but his desire to fight the Garleans outweighed his dislike for the Gridanians. During Operation Archon, when the Warrior of Light led the attack on the Praetorium, Valdelin was among the ranks. When the place was destroyed in the fight with the Ultima weapon, he got out, and just so happened to see Gaius limping out of the ruins. He was going to kill him, but Gaius asked him to hold off on his execution, just until he got rid of the Ascians. Once they're gone, Gaius promises that he won't even fight back when Valdelin tries to take his revenge. The only reason he let the man live was because he actually believed his words, so he decided to join him on his hunt. During that time, Gaius hasn't strayed from his goal, but the moment he does, Valdelin will kill him. But that can wait until the Ascians are dealt with, and Gaius won't get back to hunting them until he's dealt with the weapon project. So instead of wasting more time talking about the past, Valdelin heads off to find Severa and see what she and Sid have found out about the Sapphire Weapon. Fortunately, since the Garleans left the facility pretty fast, they didn't manage to fully destroy everything that they couldn't take. There were a lot of interesting things left behind, including info on the Sapphire Weapon's combat data, which came from Regula Van Hydrus, the former leader of the 6th Legion who fought you in Azys La, but died helping you keep the Warring Triad from breaking free. A story that I'll definitely cover another time. They also discovered what you learned from the Echo, that the Sapphire Weapon, despite how powerful it was incomplete, which means Sid is going to have to work twice as hard to figure out a way to counter a fully powered weapon. Your vision also lets you know that while the Oversoul mode wasn't meant to make Nale Van Darner's manifest, it was meant to kill the pilot, and knowing that his children knew that angers Gaius even more, especially since Alphonse is willingly killing his siblings just to fuel the war machines. Gaius and Valdelin head off to find where the weapons have been taken, while Sid and Severa get to work on finding a way to disable the weapons before Oversoul can be activated. While they're doing that, you go let the Resistance know what you learned while fighting the Sapphire Weapon so they can prepare for what's to come. Meanwhile, at the 7th Legion's headquarters in Werlyt, Alphonse reports the loss of the Sapphire Weapon to Valens, the leader of the Legion, and what is by far one of the creepiest men I've ever seen. He shows his disdain for Alphonse and his siblings, letting him know that he is only useful until he's not, before sending him off to be punished. He then turns his attention to Allie, and one can only guess what horrors he has in store for her. This concludes the second part of the Sorrow of Werlyt storyline. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of the story.